Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Glad to see so many. So let's start. I think the strongest dream in this planet is the European dream. It's a dream of a continent based on democracy that works together, securing the living conditions of Europeans at present times, but also in the future. A dream of a continent that will protect the competitiveness of its economy. And it is a dream of a continent that takes a leading role in this world in so many aspects, including the fight against climate change. I believe that yesterday we delivered on that dream. We agreed on the 2040 targets, on all the content of the climate law. We agreed on an NDC. So we have now the 3 pillars that the presidency was aiming for before we are going to jump into the plane to Berlin. We have the mandate. We have the EU climate law setting a binding target at 90% for 2040. And we have an NDC with a range that I can only hope that other countries in the world would aspire to meet our ambition level. The target is in line with science. It's needed not only for showing our global leadership in climate, but it's also there to give guidance to industry, but of course also guidance to the post-2030 package that will follow. And on a personal note, I don't know why some of you yesterday asked me if and what we would do if we were going to fail. I thought that was a very strange question, because failure here is not an option. We have a union that has the ability, through hard times but also through difficult decisions, to come together. We manage so, among other things, with the very competent and committed effort by the Commissioner and the whole team in the Commission. Of course, I also must thank the Danish team. Last time, I think I promised them a beer. Maybe I have to go above that this time. But first and foremost, thank you to all the member states that have contributed. We have now the foundation for shaping the future of our continent, a continent that takes its responsibility on climate seriously, a continent that protects the citizen, a continent where our economy can grow, a continent that is based on democracy, respect for individual human rights, a continent that is the bearer of, I think, the most beautiful dream on this planet. Thank you very much, and I leave the floor to you, Wopke.
Thanks very much, and ladies and gentlemen, very good to see you. And as you have experienced, we didn't want to rush it. I also, Lars, want to thank you wholeheartedly, you and your team. Of course, everyone in the Commission and all the member states who have shown a huge degree of cooperation and flexibility. And this is a union where it does take 27 to tango. And we did manage to deliver on that. What I've said over and over again in the conversations with many of you is that this is or was a 3-step rocket, where we're going to have a first conversation before we would walk into New York, Aagaard, on the range. Then we would have the guidance of the leaders, and then we would conclude this at the Environment Council of yesterday. That is a process that we have followed. I think and I'm convinced the result, both on the NDC and on the 2040 target, is excellent. And of course, as always in politics, the road is never a straight line. It's not a national politics, at least not in my experience, and it is not in European politics in my experience. So let me take a step back and basically exactly as Lars was saying. Leaders have already reaffirmed their strong commitment to staying the course on the climate and environmental goals and harnessing the full potential of the industrial renewal that has to come with it. That is what we have done today. It is a deal, it is an agreement that is pragmatic, that is ambitious, that delivers speed, and it delivers flexibility. And what we need to make sure, and that is at the heart of this, is, and again, I've said that also many times, climate competitiveness and independence need to go hand in hand going forward. All three are essential, but going forward, we need to make sure it is all of those and not one at the expense of the other. That is what Europe needs going forward. Climate competitiveness and independence. Now, climate action, because this new 2040 target sets the next milestones towards climate neutrality, and it also provides the investment horizons our industry needs. That's the other thing that many people have been asking, particularly also from business. Please give us predictability. Give us a true north so that we know what we can count on. Competitiveness, because we want Europe's climate leadership also to pay off for our economy. And this, in the end, is about clean tech. And independence, because we need more and we have to advance this clean transition because it will make us less dependent on others, including dubious regimes on whom we now still unfortunately rely. So we've listened to and worked with literally all parties around the table. That brought us to, I think, a very good compromise. We have agreed to a legally binding headline 2040 target of 90% with a domestic target of 85 and an up to 5 international credits. We have reaffirmed the flexibilities that we've put on the table. As I'm sure you've seen, we are also postponing ETS 2 by 1 year, and we're adopting measures on the ETS 2 implementation framework to smoothen the launch of it. And we have upheld our commitment, of course, hugely important, of coming to Belém with an ambitious NDC. Again, exactly the range that we have aimed for, 66.25 to 72.5. And my experience, also from the various conversations I've had in New York and one-on-one with many others across the globe, but certainly also when I was in Brasilia a couple of weeks ago, is that the ask was, okay, this is a fantastic range. Could Europe please formalize it? And that is what we have done. So once again, many thanks to everyone. Thanks to you for your patience. And we're very glad we're here.
Thank you, Minister. Thanks, Commissioner. Let's open up the floor for questions. Please state your name and media. Alice, go ahead.
Thank you, Alice Hancock, Financial Times. I wondered, obviously, the Fit for 55 files for 2030 are very finely balanced. Has the Commission done an assessment of what the postponement of ETS 2 will, how that will impact the Fit for 55 files and the 2030 goals? And does that mean there's less chance that they will be met? And on a macro level, I wondered to what extent the negotiations here over the past 24 hours are kind of a microcosm of what we might see at COP, showing the difficulty of agreeing ambitious and potentially science-aligned climate legislation in the current geopolitical and economic context. Thank you.
So on that first one, we haven't done an exact impact assessment in the last 24 hours, but what we do know is that it was always the plan to phase in ETS2 very, very smoothly. And that also tells you that towards the trajectory of 2030, the impact of that, frankly speaking, is going to be limited or really fairly limited. And as you will recall, we shared with you quite recently, somewhere in the last half year, that we are actually very close. I think we're less than 1 percentage point short of reaching 55. right? So there we're actually on track. So I'm confident also with that new information that we have the ability to get that. Your second question, is this a microcosmos of what we're going to see? In some ways it might, as always at the COPs, that is also going to be a long and intense set of conversations. What is the good news of today is that once again we will have complete unity amongst the European Union. We have an exceptionally strong mandate that also allows us to ask more from others, given that we're facing an international problem. And again, maybe with the exception of Great Britain, this is an NDC second to none, and we invite all others to join the European Union in this ambition, because we do need others to do more. They don't need to do it for us, they need to do it for all of us.
Could I comment on that as well? So at the COP, everybody has to be on board. With us, everybody was also on board. But we also, in the area of the European climate law, where there was no legal obligation for us to get everybody on board, we had a dialogue throughout the day. In less than 24 hours, it was almost there. If we took 5 minutes more, it had taken 24 hours, so less than 24 hours. And it means that now we have commitment or a positive vote for countries covering 80% of the European population. So, and it's 21 member states and 2 abstained. So what we have done yesterday is not just doing what we had to do to seal a deal. We have been working hard on to get as broad as a support as possible. And I think the dynamics here is therefore there are some, you can compare it to the COP, but frankly speaking, I think our ambition was higher. It was not just to get what we needed. It was to build as broad a consensus as we could, and I think we managed that extremely successfully.
Nico?
Thank you so much. Nicholas Kumar for Erective. Minister, last night several delegations said that you mishandled the negotiations, that you were on the one hand too optimistic going into the negotiations, and during the negotiations were too quick to give away significant concessions. Do you think that this is a warranted criticism? And Commissioner, do you think that 85 plus 5 can be called science-based when the very clear guidance from the Climate Advisory Board has been 90 to 95 domestic?
I would hope that right now I could turn back time. So when we had the decision in the Council, maybe you saw people standing up, saluting the result. I heard no criticism yesterday. That doesn't mean that I'm not aware that during 24 hours of negotiations, of course, there will be frustration under the negotiations. I mean, that is a very, very normal thing, because when you have hard negotiations, of course, it also comes with emotions, and of course, we have tested the mandate of everybody. So I have only heard support for the Danish presidency, and I think it was Bismarck who had a voting saying something like, you should not see how you do politics and sausages. So the process is what the process is. It's all about the result, and I'm tremendously proud about that.
Yeah, so maybe 3 comments, and I can't resist to also say something about this, because it's always easier if others reflect on that. Lars and his team truly have done an amazing job, and I love all the presidencies, and I've seen in I think the last 8-9 years I have seen some 15 of them. This was really second to none in terms of managing the process. But at the same time, you do need to make sure that 27 countries need to find the landing zone. So is that 2 steps to the left and then 1 to the right, or vice versa? Of course. And let's be relaxed about it. Let's be okay with that. That is the way the union works. We have a word for it. It's called democracy. Secondly, this is absolutely science-based. It's absolutely science-based. And if you look at our NDC and our 2040 target, it is not only Paris-proof, it is also 1.5 proof. Again, we invite others to join in. It is true that part of the work could be done. Doesn't have to be done. Could be done if that option is the best one available outside of the European Union. But once again, the planet doesn't care where we reduce emissions. That's just the physical logic of physics here. We just need to reduce them. And what we need to do as humanity combined is find the best possible ways at the lowest, against the lowest possible cost. And then for Europe, of course, there is the additional a challenge, but also opportunity to do that in a way that helps our businesses and enhances our independence. That's the name of the game. So absolutely science-based. One last thing on when you look at this whole deal. So we have 100% of the member states, 27, everyone in favor of the NDC. We have more than 80% joining on 2040. That's a huge number. And they're coming from the east, the west, the north, and the south, which is also hugely important because it shows how broadly this is being supported.
Sia?
Thanks. Zia Weiser from Politico. A very simple question for both of you. Who's going to pay for those carbon credits?
You mean the Article 6? Of course, the ones that are buying them, but that's not what is important here. Who pays? No, the important thing is that we have stated it should be high quality allowances. So this is, of course, a way of making sure that if needed, we can show a way forward where we will take our global responsibility, but we will also meet it in a financial effective way. And then we will see the regulation that will follow on all the details on how the concrete setup will be. That's up for the Commission to produce that proposal. So I think it's work that will be done in the future.
Yeah. So exactly. So the Commission is going to come up with a proposal with the exact deals. And there, of course, we're going to look at the best possible options. But what are a couple of the parameters that I can already clearly give you? One is it makes sense to have as much scale as possible and therefore have this done by the Commission. Secondly, it's an option. So you're only going to pay for an option if you're making use of that option. That's the logic that is baked into it. And of course, what we will make sure, and that is a hugely important thing for all 27 member states, but by the way, also for the credibility of the whole system, for those from whom we might be buying, this needs to be verified, it needs to be additional, it needs to have the gold standard in terms of impact. Because only if we manage to do that, the whole system is going to work.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry, just a question for clarification. You said this is optional, but in a text, the reference that this is a possible purchase of carbon credits, like that was removed, and it now explicitly refers to an 85% domestic target with 5. So that doesn't sound optional to me.
But what is, we cannot look into the future, right? So if in the end, going forward, member states would decide together to do more at home, is that something we're going to prevent? Of course not.
Sure, Christian.
Thank you. Christian Allen with ENS Europe. I have a question for the Minister. You mentioned at the start of this press conference that failure is not an option, but we still have an NDC that's a range, just as we had yesterday. So I was wondering, isn't this a failure of some sort, in particular as you went into talks hoping to have a specific figure based on the 2040 target linearly? And then a second question for Commissioner Hoekstra, if I may. Did you give any specific assurances to Italy in talks this last night beyond the statements that you did this morning? If so, can you clarify what they were? We know they're concerned about the C2 standards in particular. Thank you.
No, I don't see a failure. The failure has been if we were not able to deliver an NDC. Everybody was on board on that. We still are missing a decision in the European Parliament. I'm looking very much forward to working together with them. So that is part of the reason why some countries said that since the legal process has not ended, we cannot go with a figure. But if you're zooming a little bit out here, if you look at the combination of the NDC, the range, and the 2040 target, personally I think there is a very good chance that EU will over-deliver on the low number of the range. But these things you must see them in combination. So I think part of the strength in the NDC is not only the number, it's also that we have managed to get a decision on the climate law, and we succeed in having both files adopted this morning.
Yeah, just briefly building on that before I move into the next one. Let's then calibrate with the others. And then I'm not going to talk about the developing world or those upper middle income countries in that category. We're just going to look at the developed world. Let's make a comparison then between our NDC and that of our friends from Japan, Korea, New Zealand, Australia, Canada, the US, and then look at the numbers. And then I think you will find, and Great Britain, of course, and Norway and Switzerland. I think if you then make the comparison and you take also into account the diversity of the Union, you will find that these numbers are truly very ambitious. So that is one. Secondly, of course, with many countries, we have had extensive consultations and conversations on a range of issues, right? On ETS2, on what it would mean in terms of the impact assessments, what it would mean in terms of the reviews. With Italy, and you can see that in the text, we have had specific language, and I'm going to read it out to you, about considering the role of zero and low carbon and renewable fuels in the decarbonization of transport. And that is, of course, against the backdrop of the review that we're doing with open eyes on a whole range of topics as we speak, and on which we will come out before the end of this year, right?
We have a question over here.
Thank you. Jarno Artikainen, Helsingin Sanomat. Question to both of you, I guess. One of the main purposes of the whole 2040 target is to provide clarity for the companies so that they can invest. But now what appears to be 90% emissions reduction target is something else. It says it's domestically 85. The share of the credits remains unclear. It comes with review clause. It comes with emergency brake. We're also postponing ETS2, an instrument that was already previously agreed upon reviewing the combustion engine sales ban. So do you feel confident that the investment climate is there and the companies can feel secure and actually start the investments? Thank you.
It didn't completely sound as if you are part of the glass is half full club, but we are, and we think this is an amazing step forward. And if you look at the numbers, you see that we're actually going to accelerate in the next decade. That's just what the numbers will give you. And just to tap into the formidable work your country is doing, this, but also the previous government have been doing. Without any of this, they have managed to do exactly what now the whole union needs. Climate, but also competitiveness. It is big in Finland, by the way, also in Sweden and in Denmark. It is a moneymaker. Businesses from all walks of life, whenever I'm in one of those three countries, actually are asking me for more targets, not because they are philanthropists, but because they see there is a business case. So already without that, many have seen and reaped that opportunity, particularly in Finland. And I can commend the government and the businesses for how amazingly well they've done that. So it is easy to understand, right, that if we move forward, that's actually going to be even easier for them. So we're going to have more of it rather than less of it.
We'll have...
Can I comment?
Yeah,
also,
sure.
So before becoming a minister, I've been working for, I think, 15 years with the energy industry. To my knowledge, and I should also here comment that it's a specific part of the industry that it's very green. So it was in electricity, it was wind turbines and so on. To my knowledge, industry is looking for security in 2 dimensions. They would like to know where we're going with the climate. They would like to, of course, see specific regulation that can lower the risk of their investments. But they would also like to be part of a continent that succeeds. It is not very funny being a green company in a part of the world that does not succeed. So I think the combination of what we have done, setting the targets, but also reassuring that we will meet the target and we will evaluate how we do it under the way in such a way that the European economy will continue to grow. I think these 2 things are needed for any business, even the most green of the greens you can find.
Damien?
Good morning. Thank you. Damien Génicaud for Context. I have a question for the Commissioner, please. It's on ETS2. You were supposed to present some proposal on ETS2. With the delay, what does it mean for this proposal and also for the Social Climate Fund? Thank you.
So I've actually literally read that out also in the public session. So on ETS2, we're doing 2 things. One, with the OK on the 2040 text, we have automatically postponed this by 1 year. That's in the text, so that's now also part of the legislation. So we don't need to do anything else. That has been organized. The date has been moved with the agreement that we just had by 1 year. That's the first leg on ETS2. The second leg is exactly what you are asking, and that is, and we will come up with all of that before the end of this year. So everything related to the market stability mechanism, and all that we have planned and shared with you, I think in a previous press conference, we will deliver on before the end of this year. How is that then going to affect the Social Climate Fund? The first year of the Social Climate Fund, we actually have a flow over of ETS1. So we don't need the money of ETS2. It might even be there. I would need to look into the exact read of the technicians. Might even be true for part of the second year. So the SCF money is secured with this 1 year delay.
Guys, I see people yawning because it's been a very long night, so we'll do one more question and then we'll wrap for today. Christopher?
Thank you. Commissioner, you emphasized...
Sorry, could you just state your name and media?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Christopher Vandersen from Danish Climate Monitor. Commissioner, you emphasized the flexibility of the deal, which includes 85% domestic reductions, the option to possibly dilute the target even further. Is there a risk that this deal will encourage other countries around the world to set very flexible climate goals? And is there a risk to global climate agreements if every country pursue very flexible and changeable climate goals?
Look, one of the great things we have in the system is, of course, the scrutiny and also the rightful scrutiny you are applying to us. But if you then zoom out and you just take the facts and you look at what Europe is doing, you're comparing that to the rest of the world, it is crystal clear, and I gave you the numbers already on a couple of times, and also the peer group, it is crystal clear that not only are we leading in terms of the content, this has also been broadly recognized. The only feedback I've gotten in a range of conversations with the UN, with folks from all over the world was, this is a great range, but could you please formalize it? We're doing that. And that allows us to continue to ask more from others. And that is needed not only for fairness, that is also needed simply because the others are responsible for 94% of the emissions. We are at 6%, and that relative percentage is likely going to go down going forward. And then, of course, the other lag, and I'm going to continue to stress that, on this continent, we will continue with climate action. But it has to be bridged, it has to be married with independence and competitiveness. Not one without the other. All three are essential.
Thank you, and I will quickly end, as I always do, with a little Danish saying, a Danish proverb. And I think the only thing I can come up with for this one is, når enden er god, er alting godt. And it has two very different meanings, one that I won't repeat here. If you want to know that, you can come over because it's not appropriate. But I think the English translation is, all is well that ends well. Thank you.
Now they only have one question, right? And that is that.